Radio is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
Nancy Pelosi yesterday, she's holding up John Conyers' iconic status in the House of Representatives. I hope all of you had a little time to rest over Thanksgiving and get a little break with the fam. And don't you just feel like you eat so much, like you just... I felt like overstuffed. We had so much fun. The kids had a blast. We went down to Florida and stayed with extended family. They're like my family. So we stayed down there and had a couple of days, which was really nice. I really enjoyed it. And it was good to see Morning Joe was working the day after Thanksgiving, though. We'll get into that. I mean, they really put me to shame. I took Friday off from the Ingraham angle on radio, and they put all of us to shame because they were working on after Thanksgiving. It's just, gosh, I was really, really proud of them and their work ethic. So we might talk about that. John Conyers has been a fixture in Washington for years. And Nancy Pelosi was actually standing up for me. And every situation is different. And I don't know why I've always sounded like I was just about to fall asleep.
As John reviews his case, which he knows, which I don't, I believe he will do. I believe that he will. Excuse me, may I finish my sentence? Sure. That he will do the right thing.
And is the right thing what? Resign?
He will do the right thing in terms of what he knows about his situation, that he's entitled to due process, but women are entitled to due process as well.
Talk about needing to resign.
Double talk central.
Talk about needing to step aside. Nancy Pelosi's trying to diagram those sentences is a Herculean feat. She starts down one branch of thought, and then the twig goes this way and that way, and it's a gnarly little mess. By the way, how many of you have already gotten your Christmas tree? I saw them all. They're all roped up to the racks over the weekend, and all people are already getting their trees, putting their trees up. And Raymond, the good thing about Raymond's tree is it opens up like an umbrella, so you just take it right out of the attic. It's an attic.
No, it's a new fake tree. By the way, I saw some network that shall remain nameless ripping us off this
Raymond
morning.
Is already getting into the fake versus real Christmas tree. We have serious issues to tackle today regarding tax reform, John Conyers. We got a big royal wedding coming up in the spring. That'll drive up cable
Consumer
rating.
Protection Financial Bureau.
Oh, now bored. Yeah, that Rich Cordray. I knew him 20 years ago. We used to not pal around, but he's a good friend of a friend of mine. And he's a smart lawyer. He's a very smart lawyer. But what a disaster that Consumer Financial Protection Board. It was like a total oxymoron. It was the opposite. Made it harder for business to be doing business, loaning money.
Nightmare.
Oh, no. This is... all of this is big government growth. And every time I see one of those charts where it says 3 of the top 5 richest counties in the United States are hovered around Washington, D.C., that's all you need to know. Fairfax County, Montgomery County, Loudoun County, the richest counties in the United States. How is that possible? This is supposed to be the people's government. This is supposed to be government of and by and for the people. Instead, it's government for the lobbyists, by the consultants, and for the donors. That just tripped right off my tongue. I was thinking, what if someone like in the Rick Perry in the debate, and they said, Laura, what 3 things are you talking about? I like Rick Perry. By the way, I saw him the other day. We have to get him on the show. We have to get him on the Ingraham angle. He's doing really cool stuff at Energy. Really cool stuff. And this is his bailiwick. I mean, he just loves it. I said, how are you liking your job? Thinking, he misses Texas. He said, I love it every day I go to work. He said, there are challenges, big bureaucracy, but I love it. Donald Trump wants to unleash the economy and unleash the energy sector, and we're already seeing huge results. When was this? Wednesday, on the Ingraham angle. I'm hopping around here, but just bear with me because this all will connect together somehow in the end. On Wednesday on the Ingraham angle, I urged you all to stay out of the stores when, if possible, to be with your family, at least on Thanksgiving Day, because it's the time to spend with your family, and those are memories that you won't ever have again. That's it. I mean, your kids are gone, and suddenly, you're looking at a rotisserie chicken by yourself at a table. No, I'm just but you know what I'm saying. I love those rotisserie chickens. They shoot those things up with all sorts of bad stuff, I know, but they're good. They're good. But it's a time to be with your family. And sometimes it's a little less pleasant than other times. Sometimes you don't get along or you have estranged family members. But I urged you all to resist the stores that were open.
The lure of stores on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
But did you resist?
Well.
Oh.
Here's what happened.
Wait a minute. Do we have a clip of her? Wait, I'm trying to recall the phrase.
Wait, the phrase on the Ingraham angle?
Something about.
Because
sometimes the greatest opportunities are around the table. In fact, the greatest opportunity. No, you said the greatest opportunity is often
home.
Around the table. At home, around the table.
Number one, it wasn't at home.
Which you quickly abandoned to find some piece of Chinese trash on the aisle at Walmart.
Here's what happened. Dimitri has been generally a very good boy, and he wanted a little remote. Raymond's raising his eyes. He's okay. All right. He's the middle child. He deserves a little bit of a break. So he wanted a little remote control boat. Like, you can get these things for like $12, but for some reason I couldn't find any store because we were at a pool, and he likes to drive the boat around in the pool. And so
Thanksgiving Day.
Well, it was
Thanksgiving Day.
It was
yes or no? Yeah, Thanksgiving Day.
It was Thanksgiving
Day.
Well, was it
just trying to? Yeah.
Was it it might have been the day after Thanksgiving. Was it Thanksgiving?
No, it was Thanksgiving Day.
Because I sent you a photo. I admitted it to Raymond.
Evidence.
Don't you dare post that. And so I go, and I've never done this before. You know what I was doing? I was on assignment.
Oh, please.
You know when they say that the anchor is gone, they're on assignment, but then there's never any product that comes out of the assignment. There's no follow-up report.
Right.
Well, what assignment were you on, and what did you produce?
Assignment is how reporters go on vacation.
Right. Okay. Ahead. She's on assignment at Walmart in West Palm or something.
I was right. It was Walmart. Oh, my God.
Well, there was nothing open except Walmart during the day, so we go to Walmart. And you know what they had? They had all these big pallets of Chinese stuff with shrink wrap all around them. And it said, do not rip open until 6 p.m. because that's when the doorbusters start.
Wow.
But it was stuff I wouldn't buy. And all I was looking for was a little $12.99 boat. I actually found one that ended up entertaining him for the whole weekend. He just drove that boat all weekend. But I felt remorse, and I did feel a bit guilty. You know what else I bought? I bought a pack of playing cards because we didn't have cards. And
those were times in West Palm. Wow. We're going to have a keynote conference in the evening? Wow, hot night. Hot Palm Beach nights.
Blue hairs. And I had a playing
card. Did you get a
rinse?
A blue rinse?
I'm almost there, believe me. And then I got, what's those other playing cards that the kids like to play?
I don't know. I'm not in the home yet. I don't know what that is.
Elisa will know.
Uno.
Uno. I got a
fun.
packet of Uno because Nico throws those things out. We lose those the first second you play. So I got Uno and a pack of playing cards and that remote control boat. And I got some charging cords because, of course, I left those all at home. Because when I travel, I lose the charging cords, gone, nothing. She's shaking her head going, every time I travel with you, lose everything. And then I made my way through the store, and I'm just watching people. I'm observing them because they're the pre-doorbusters people. So the people who are in Walmart, you know what I realized they were doing? And I followed one family, like they were nice people. They were scouting out which shrunk-wrapped tower they were going to hit first. So they were plotting, like, you know how your kids, Raymond, go to Disney World and they have the map out and they're going to go, okay, we're going to go to Space Mountain first. Yes. Then we're going to go. They know which. They were there to plot out the pallets they were going to hit first. And I'm talking towers of toys, like tower shrunk wrap with a big shrink wrap. It has signs all over, signs. Do not rip open until 6 p.m. And then, so we pay for our stuff. We go out, and indeed in the parking lot, they wouldn't let people line up on the actual sidewalk, but people had lawn chairs, and they were sitting outside of their cars in the parking lot watching football, and I don't know what they're watching on their phones. And I go up to this gal and I said, is there something happening here I don't know about? You guys are all sitting in your lawn chairs. Oh, no, we're just getting ready for 6 o'clock. We've already gone inside and we know where we're going to go.
Plotting out the course.
And I said, well, what if, and our dinner was late. It was 7 o'clock. I've never had a Thanksgiving dinner that late. I always have it in the afternoon, but it was a late dinner. And I was like, wow, okay, well, this is something different. Usually it's the line of people. Now it's becoming, this is what I'm going to say. It's becoming tailgate Thanksgiving. It is the equivalent of tailgating. And there was, I'm not kidding you, kids. One person in front of the pickup truck had a playpen. They had set up a playpen, like a little cage for their child to like play around in the play, but threw some blankets down. I said, this is a regular Norman Rockwell painting here. This is great. This is fun. These are the memories that you're going to look back on. And remember when we were smelling those fumes from the parking lot, waiting for those pallets to be ripped open? Oh, no. Oh, I was on assignment, you see. Mm-hmm. I was on assignment. So on Wednesday, we also did a rundown on who is the oldest serving member of Congress. And John Conyers, of course, right up there.
Number one. Yeah,
53 years or 52 years in Congress. So setting aside all of the allegations against him and the fact that people, the reports that he shows up in his office like disoriented and wearing pajamas because he's, I don't know if he has early onset dementia. But do you all agree with me that this has got to stop? And it seems like people were actually following my lead on this today. I was tuned into some of the morning chat shows, and they kind of were picking up where yours truly left off.
They were talking about him having dementia several years ago. I know we're not supposed to talk about that when it pertains to the president and the fact that the president's skills mentally, if you look at interviews, seem to have diminished a great deal. That's objective. Diminished. And 20 years from now, people are going to say, well, look how he talked in 99. Look how he's talking now. So please, save your shock for somebody else. I really don't give a damn what you think about what I said, because it's going to be said 10 years from now.
Can you tell us what the stock market's going to be in 10 years from now, soothsayer extraordinaire? Max Forehead is telling us everything over there at Morning Joe. Headroom, Max
and now
Headroom.
They're calling. Now
Max Forehead. I'm having dementia.
Joe and Mika are now calling for Conyers to step down.
John Conyers 3 years ago had articles written about him from people who adored him, saying he should step aside because in 2014, I think it was, he went to the opening of an Arab American museum, and when he got up to talk, he was talking about Miles Davis and John Coltrane, rambling around. He's showing up in pajamas at meetings.
Well, I don't know about all that, but he's just too long in Congress. How many of you think, this goes back to the term limit argument, of course. We got a lot of young bucks who are terrible, though, in Congress. We got a lot of youngsters who aren't any good. We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Al Franken says he's ashamed, but he shall return. And Nancy Pelosi, I don't know about that, but every situation is due process. I don't know. The Catholic bishops really, abortion is definitely part of church dogma. I know you purchased a timeshare and there was a time where you loved it. Then you didn't. You've learned the contracts are perpetual. The fees constantly go up and you can't get the dates or destinations you want. You've tried getting out of that crooked contract with no luck. Well, I've done my research, and I want you to call my friends at Resort Release. ResortRelease.com helps timeshare owners legally terminate their contracts and end all future payments, guaranteed. They've even earned an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Go to ResortRelease.com or call them at 855-66-LAURA. Resort Release gives every customer a 100% guarantee that lets you legally and permanently walk away. If you don't get out of the contract, you don't pay a dime, period. 2018's maintenance fees are due any day now, so get out now before you have to pay again. Visit ResortRelease.com or call them at 855-66-LAURA to see if you qualify. That's 855-66-LAURA. Call my friends at ResortRelease.com today. Call them at 855-66-LAURA to see if you... Do you agree with me that it is time for the dinosaurs to lumber off into the sunset?
And that was last week.
That was last
all just
Wednesday.
Catching the retirement
now they're all getting
fever.
it. Like, oh yeah, no, these people got to retire. Well, term limits. We've always loved the idea of this is.
But 53 years.
Lyndon Johnson was president. My goodness, as Raymond pointed out, that was the year that Mary Poppins came out. Tuppence a bag.
That man. Talk about somebody who needs to go.
My goodness. And then it's like Thad Cochran's disoriented up there. They should have a mental acuity test for these people up there.
And look, as you said on the last week, on the Ingraham angle, there is wisdom in age. There is wisdom.
Yeah, there are some of them are really sharp.
But that's when you use your wisdom to train the next generation, not sit and occupy space while you decay. And, I mean, I think of poor old Larry King. Remember Larry King at the end of that show? And he was like, Laura, welcome to the show.
Go.
Nice dress.
Go.
We going to Coles? Cola. Where are you from? I mean, it's like he was.
I mean, you're just not as sharp. As you get older, it's hard. I mean, it's just the way it is.
And now he's reading those cards at RT.
Russian television?
Yeah, Russian television.
Well, I'm glad that Mick Mulvaney's over. They're trying to stop Trump from pointing Mick Mulvaney over to the CFPB. Not to get too wonky here. I'm going to explain this on the Ingraham angle tonight. Consumer Financial Protection Board was set up to go after predatory lending in the after the Dodd-Frank legislation passed. So it's all about predatory lending. It sounds great in theory,
right,
but what it did is shut down a lot of lending to low-income and middle-income Americans because it was so onerous to lend money. And that then became a place where the economy stalled out. So we'll talk about that tonight and a lot more coming up. Buchanan. You've heard me talking about one of my favorite games, Say Anything. It's a blast. You ask a question, everyone around the table just starts talking and laughing. And with Say Anything, it's really that easy. There's nothing worse than getting a game. It's all complicated rules. And, oh, my God, you don't know which end is up. Forget it. This is my go-to game that I play with the kids. It also helps the little ones with their writing a little bit. So that's an added plus. And you can play it casually. You don't have to, commit to playing something for, 2 hours. There's no timer. There's also no rush. You can take your time, and everyone in the family plays together. That's what I really love it. Whether you're, whether you're 10 or whether you're 80 years old, you can have fun playing this game. It's called Say Anything. Your family will be talking and laughing, connecting, which is what we should be doing around the holidays with those we really love. So there's only a few weeks left before Christmas. Hard to believe. So make sure you get a gift that brings families together. It's called Say Anything. You can get it at Target or Toys R Us. I'm just sorry we've had to experience you in the U.S. Senate at all at this point. He's sorry to the women. I'm sorry we've had to experience. Poor Minnesota, a state I love, has had to endure Governor Mark Dayton disaster. Amy Klobuchar. I mean, this is just the worst of worst. I don't know if it's the winter that sets in up there in Minnesota, but this is remember they had old Paul Wellstone years ago and Jesse Ventura. It's a state I just can't figure out. I cannot figure out. It's a Norwegian mentality. I don't know. They got the Somalis and St. Paul. There are a couple states, Maine and Minnesota. I have a hard time figuring out those two states. Maybe more so than any other states in the United States. So now it's the daily scorecard of sexual harassers, or I should say accused sexual harassers, because if someone accuses you, you're automatically guilty. I mean, there is no opportunity for any man or woman to beat back an allegation once they're accused. We know that. So it's like if you want to get back at someone, just accuse them of something, and then, probably he'll lose a promotion or she'll lose a job or her name will be blackballed or his name will be dragged through. And then there are real victims out there who are truly victims. But is the way the media are covering this, the way they're covering this is just a sign of an unserious nation. We have serious problems and serious good news out there too. Pat Buchanan wrote a piece last week titled Unserious Nation. And it was fabulous about all of these issues, what we really need to tackle as a country and what we occupy our time with in the media and beyond. He joins us now. One of our first guests on the Ingraham angle, who was fantastic. I want him back on regularly. And we adore him. Pat, how was your Thanksgiving? Was it fun?
It was fun. I went down to my brother's place and we had a great time. It was a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Did you shoot any real, birds and pluck the feathers out or something? Is that what the Buchanan boys do?
My days ended when I shot a few birds in 8th grade or something.
In the old days, though, Pat, you could go out to Tyson's Corner and you could turkey hunt. There was great turkeys out there. Now we just have turkey politicians.
7 corners. There was nothing out there.
That was a good old days. Gosh, I wish I lived then. I wish I lived in the D.C. area back then. That was when the going was good. That was awesome. It was
a great town. You had 800,000 people in the city, and the suburbs were Silver Spring and Bethesda.
Wow. And McLean, Pat, was just like a gravel road, right? Going out on 123 and Route 50.
Sure, the Chain Bridge. You go across the Chain Bridge, there was nothing out there, a little 2-lane road heading into Virginia, And, it was very southern, frankly. We used to play Washington Lee, and it was very strongly Protestant, Catholic school coming across from D.C., but it was really, it retained its character all the way from, going back through Civil War days. It was very Southern, very Protestant, just beginning to build up. And I'll tell you what sent, to be honest, was the Supreme Court decision in '54, which desegregated schools in all deliberate speed in '55. And a lot of folks, white folks, simply abandoned the D.C. schools so that 6 years later they were all African American. And folks moved out to Silver Spring and Bethesda and beyond there, and all poured across the river into Virginia.
That's really interesting.
Time.
Yeah, a real demographic shift. And now, of course, we have the Islamic incursion into Northern Virginia, and got full burqas and abayas all over Loudoun County. Never seen anything like it. Never seen. This is nothing speaks Christmas to me.
We're
like
diverse.
Yeah, like
diverse over here.
Yeah, it's wild. So let's talk about what we're seeing now in politics. I want to get to this tax reform, this economy, which is just flying high, despite the fact that we haven't been able to repeal Obamacare, but still flying high. What of all of these allegations? And it seems to be mostly Democrats, but they're obviously Roy Moore and a few others thrown in. How do we process this as a nation now?
Well, I think there's one interesting figure that came out of Congress. What was it, $15 or $17 million have been transferred, and basically to pay off, protesters, individual women who feel assaulted or harassed or really bothered. And let's, just do the math, that if $100,000 were granted to each woman who had this form of process, that's either 150 incidents or 150 individuals involved. So I think that's going to be revealed. My guess is the press is working on all the names now. And this is sort of like a long fever, these things. And I think it's going to take a real while to work itself out. And I think Conyers and Al Franken are only the first 2 casualties on the Hill.
One of the things that I am very concerned about, I'm going to talk to Christina Hoff Sommers about this later, is that office life is poisoned now. I mean, I both despise the sexualization of workplace relationships, that's hideous, and the idea of someone getting ahead that way or being required to get a promotion through that is hideous. But also, it is quite something that decades and decades and decades later, individuals are charged with these things. There is no proving or disproving these allegations. And I think there's going to be a boomerang effect on this, which is actually not great for women. I'm worried about that.
I think it's true, and you're right. I mean, anyone in an office now, they're going to be very cautious about talking to people, and suppose this gal says something about me, and flirtation is going to be somewhat diminished, I would think, in office affairs, and people can be falsely accused. And you're right. One of the reasons I think that Judge Moore there's skepticism about some of the allegations against Judge Moore is, here's one of the most controversial people in Alabama who's run 8 times or something, and the charges were never made, and now they all come pouring forth from 35, 40 years ago. So people say, wait a minute, is this simply taking down a conservative? And that's one of the reasons there's doubt, and one of the reasons I think Judge Moore still has a chance to win this election. It's just what you're saying. The skepticism, the further back this goes.
Well, I think that one thing that we're seeing here is Democrats are getting singed by this now, and to a greater extent than Republicans.
I think they are. Well, the institutions, if you talk about major media and you talk about Hollywood and you talk about Congress in previous years, they're Democratic-dominated, liberal-dominated institutions.
Raymond Arroyo's point on, he's with us, Pat, on the Ingraham angle was, you have to look at the content that many of these who are accused, and more credibly than others, have put out over the past 40 years. The content of their character, in a way. And Raymond was talking about this.
No, the work didn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
it's a reflection of the heart of the people who are creating it.
Pornified movies, pornified billboards, pornified in profane music lyrics, Pat.
This is a result of the so-called sexual revolution of the 1960s, where it said, this is no big deal. Sex is no big deal, and the celebration of hookups and that culture and all the rest of it. And once you do that to the culture and to the country, I mean, a lot of people say, well, it's not that big a deal, and more of these incidents occur.
The president, Pat, tweeted over the weekend about CNN, more on fake news, how they represent us internationally. He he kind of is picking winners and losers out there, and obviously prefers Fox over CNN. He's getting hammered by this. Christiane Amanpour tweeting back. We've had journalists shot in the face, and it's being discussed as an attack on free press. What about this? What about this line of attack from Trump? Is this smart? Or
what it does demonstrate, I think. Look, Trump, I believe, attacked CNN International, did he not?
Yeah.
And so a lot of these folks immediately rose. It's a political defense CNN has taken, basically you're attacking our people abroad for fake journalism, whereas these people have been combat zones, et cetera, et cetera. I can understand it perfectly. It's a political defense by CNN, but it tells you something else. I mean, these media institutions are increasingly the op-ed arms or the opposition research arms of political parties and ideological movements. I mean, it was no accident, comrade, that they went after Roy Moore 1 month before that election, and it was the Washington Post that did the wet work on this thing. Mm-hmm. So I think this is just the character of American politics now. I mean, there is no neutral ground almost.
Do you favor term limits? I can't remember what you wrote about term limits years ago. I should remember.
Yeah, I was in favor of term limits, and I was sorry. I think it was they were being done at the state level, and the Supreme Court dumped them over and saved all those congressmen. I think a number of, I think some 20-some states had passed various kinds, 2 terms in Congress or 3 terms, 12 years in Congress or 18 years and 2 terms in the Senate and things. But the Supreme Court overturned them and said it can only be done basically by the Congress, but through constitutional amendment or something like that, yeah. And so you're never going to get that through.
Yeah, well, you got Conyers up there for 52 years when Johnson. Pat, when you were running around with Goldwater and Reagan, he was all getting ready to run for
He was just a kid.
Yeah.
He was just a kid down there.
He was getting ready to run for Congress back then. The Mary Poppins just came out.
Crossfire. I was talking to Shelley. I said, I think that fellow's been on Crossfire many, many times.
That's when Crossfire was fantastic with you and Braden. That's how I cut my teeth in politics, Pat. Watching you and Braden and Kinsley, those were great days. That was great television.
It was great. CNN was the only network then, and we were the top-rated show then, so it was great fun.
That was 7 p.m., right, Pat?
It was 7. No, it's 7. Yeah, it was 7 p.m. exactly.
Yeah, I remember.
Frankly, we used to do. We were on RC and we got off RC at. I'm sorry, I think it was 7:30 p.m.
Oh, I thought it was 7, but
no,
go
it
ahead.
was 7 p.m. No, it was 7:30,
I
think. But anyhow, we used to get off radio at about 4 or 5 minutes of 7, get in your cars and get down to Wisconsin Avenue and get into that little studio there, which was connected right to the main the main center of where all the journalism was going on. It were great times, though, great days. Not a lot of preparation.
Pat, I remember.
Well, you didn't need much prep because you knew the material.
You actually knew the material.
Marinated in it, and you'd written articles about
it. All afternoon about it from 4 to 7 on the radio.
That's what I find on my TV show, Pat. Except I don't have the bright idea that you had of having it all around the same time frame. I'm in morning and at night. How do you burn those candles? That's a hard. That's a hard
afternoon nap time.
Yeah. Hey, Pat, on this tax reform deal, the attacks from the left is that it helps the rich. On the right, it's the rich are paying more in taxes. That's hard to make heads or tails of this tax reform.
Well, I think, the Republicans ought to just ignore I don't care what tax you cut, they're going to say it benefits the rich. That's their mantra. They're going to say it. I think you got to ignore it. I think the key thing here is to go ahead and do what you believe will really keep this economy moving and moving even more rapidly, creating more jobs, bringing manufacturing back to the U.S., and bet your money on that and do what you can to accomplish that. And if you've done your best, then I remember Reagan used to say in line, Pat, if it doesn't work out, I can always go out to the ranch and chop wood. And you got to have that sort of attitude. I think decide what will really work for the country and for the American people and for what you believe is a just and fair system, and do it and take the hit for all that nonsense.
You might as well. You're going to get criticized anyway. That's why
They're going to give it to you anyhow.
Yeah. The next hit he's going to take is whomever he puts on the Supreme Court, he nominates, so that whatever the next open seat is, he should go for the most conservative, judicially conservative nominee, because they're going to hit him anyway. This is when you go for broke and really transforming the court. You don't go backward on this.
Gorsuch is exactly the right fellow. Don't try and get some sort of moderate folks who'll get
Kennedy.
Democratic votes. Forget that.
No.
I mean, this is a key thing, and I think Grassley is lining up all those federal courts, the appellate courts.
It's awesome.
Get rid of the blue slip. I mean, he could be a man of the year for Time Magazine, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I know. He's the one guy in his 80s, so I'm like, I don't care. You've been there for 30-something years. I want you to stay, because Grassley's actually done a really pretty good job. Pat Buchanan, thank you so much. Always great to talk to you. An unserious nation gets a little more serious when Pat. So, man, I saw him perform drunk. He was better drunk than most of these people today are sober. John in Pennsylvania, line 2. Johnny.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
Great.
I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
I agree almost with everything you say, and I think you're hilarious also.
Thank you.
As far as the rhinos in Washington, I have a few questions. We're never going to get rid of them because the swamp is protecting everybody. My question is, how do they wear $1,000 suits, $500 shoes, send their kids to private school, live in gated communities
Not all
on
of
a
them.
salary that is...
Yeah, not all of them do. I've got to say, some of them do. You can go to that list of who's the richest in Congress, but I guess you're implying that they're all on the take, and But I think it's pretty tough to be on the take now. You're on the take now from some lobbyist. You're going to jail. Some of them are wealthy. A lot of them sleep on their office floors there. They don't even have apartments. She is holding up John Conyers' iconic status in the House of Representatives. I hope all of you had a little time to rest over Thanksgiving and get a little break with the fam. And don't you just feel like you eat so much? Like you just... I felt like overstuffed. We had so much fun. The kids had a blast. We went down to Florida and stayed with extended family. They're like my family. So we stayed down there and had a couple of days, which was really nice. I really enjoyed it. And it was good to see Morning Joe was working the day after Thanksgiving, though. We'll get into that. I mean, they really put me to shame. I took Friday off from the Ingraham angle on radio, and they put all of us to shame because they were working on after Thanksgiving. It's just, gosh, I was really, really proud of them and their work ethic. So we might talk about that. John Conyers has been a fixture in Washington for years. And Nancy Pelosi was actually standing up for me. And I can't. Every situation is different. And I don't know why I've always sounded like I was just about to fall asleep.
As John reviews his case, which he knows, which I don't, I believe he will do. I believe that he will. Excuse me, may I finish my sentence? Sure. That he will do the right thing.
And is the right thing what? Resign?
He will do the right thing in terms of what he knows about his situation, that he's entitled to due process, but women are entitled to due process as well.
Talk about needing to resign.
Double talk central.
Talk about needing to step aside. Nancy Pelosi's trying to diagram those sentences is a Herculean feat. She starts down one branch of thought, and then the twig goes this way and that way, and it's a gnarly little mess. By the way, how many of you have already gotten your Christmas tree? I saw them all. They're all roped up to the racks over the weekend, and all people are already getting their trees, putting their trees up. And Raymond The good thing about Raymond's tree is it opens up like an umbrella. So you just take it right out of the attic. It's an attic.
No, it's a new fake tree. By the way, I saw some network that shall remain nameless ripping us off this
Raymond
morning.
is already getting into the fake versus real Christmas tree. We have serious issues to tackle today regarding tax reform, John Conyers. We got a big royal wedding coming up in the spring. That'll drive up cable rating.
Consumer Protection Financial Bureau.
Oh, now bored. Yeah, that Rich Cordray. I knew him 20 years ago. We used to not pal around, but he's a good friend of a friend of mine. And he's a smart lawyer. He's a very smart lawyer. But what a disaster that Consumer Financial Protection Board. It was like a total oxymoron. It was the opposite. Made it harder for business to be doing business, loaning money.
Nightmare.
Oh, no. This is all of this is big government growth. And every time I see one of those charts where it says 3 of the top 5 richest counties in the United States are hovered around Washington, D.C., that's all you need to know. Fairfax County, Montgomery County, Loudoun County, the richest counties in the United States. How is that possible? This is supposed to be the people's government. This is supposed to be government of and by and for the people. Instead, it's government for the lobbyists, by the consultants, and for the donors. That just tripped right off my tongue. I was thinking, what if someone like in the Rick Perry in the debate, and they said, Laura, what 3 things are you talking about? I like Rick Perry. By the way, I saw him the other day. We have to get him on the show. We have to get him on the Ingraham Angle. He's doing really cool stuff at Energy. Really cool stuff. And this is his bailiwick. I mean, he just loves it. I said, how are you liking your job? Thinking, he misses Texas. He said, I love it every day I go to work. He said, there are challenges, big bureaucracy, but I love it. Donald Trump wants to unleash the economy and unleash the energy sector, and we're already seeing huge results. When was this? Wednesday, on the Ingraham Angle. I'm hopping around here, but just bear with me because this all will connect together somehow in the end. On Wednesday on the Ingraham Angle, I urged you all to stay out of the stores when, if possible, to be with your family, at least on Thanksgiving Day, because it's the time to spend with your family, and those are memories that you won't ever have again. That's it. I mean, your kids are gone, and suddenly, you're looking at a rotisserie chicken by yourself at a table. No, but you know what I'm saying. I love those rotisserie chickens. They shoot those things up with all sorts of bad stuff, I know, but they're good. They're good. But it's the time to be with your family. And sometimes it's a little less pleasant than other times. So sometimes you don't get along or you have estranged family members. But I urged you all to resist the stores that were open.
The lure of stores on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
But did you resist?
Well.
Oh.
Here's what happened.
Wait a minute. Do we have a clip of her? Wait, I'm trying to recall the phrase.
Wait, the phrase on the Ingraham Angle?
Something about
because sometimes
the greatest opportunities are around the table. In fact, the greatest opportunity. No, you said the greatest opportunity is often
home.
Around the table. At home, around the table.
Number one, it wasn't at home.
Which you quickly abandoned to find some piece of Chinese trash on the aisle at Walmart.
Here's what happened. Here's what happened. Dimitri has been generally a very good boy, and he wanted a little remote. Raymond's raising his eyes. He's okay. All right. He's the middle child. He deserves a little bit of a break. So he wanted a little remote control boat. Like you can get these things for like $12, but for some reason I couldn't find any store because we were at a pool, and he likes to drive the boat around in the pool. And so
Thanksgiving Day.
Well, it was
Thanksgiving Day.
It was
yes or no?
Yeah,
Thanksgiving Day.
It was Thanksgiving
Day.
Well, was it
just trying to? Yeah.
Was it it might have been the day after Thanksgiving. Was it Thanksgiving?
No, it was Thanksgiving Day.
Because I sent you a photo. I admitted it to Raymond.
Evidence.
Don't you dare post that. And so I go and I've never done this before. You know what I was doing? I was on assignment.
Oh, please.
You know when they say that the anchor is gone, they're on assignment, but then there's never any product that comes out of the assignment. There's no follow-up report.
Right.
Well, what assignment were you on and what did you produce?
Assignment is how reporters go on vacation.
Right. Okay. Ahead. She's on assignment at Walmart in West Palm or something.
I was right. It was Walmart. Oh, my God.
Well, there was nothing open except Walmart during the day. So we go to Walmart. And you know what they had? They had all these big pallets of Chinese stuff. There was shrink wrap all around them. And it said, do not rip open until 6 p.m. because that's when the doorbusters start.
Wow.
But it was stuff I wouldn't buy. And all I was looking for was a little $12.99 boat. I actually found one that ended up entertaining him for the whole weekend. He just drove that boat all weekend. But I felt remorse, and I did feel a bit guilty. You know what else I bought? I bought a pack of playing cards because we didn't have cards. And
those were times in West Palm. Wow. We're going to have a keynote conference in the evening? Wow, hot night. This hot Palm Beach nights.
Blue hairs. And I had a
Did you get a rinse, a blue rinse?
I'm almost there, believe me. And then I got, what's those other playing cards that the kids like to play?
I don't know. I'm not in the home yet. I don't know what that is.
Elisa will know.
Uno.
Uno. I got a
fun.
packet of Uno because Nico throws those things out. We lose those the first second you play. So I got Uno and a pack of playing cards and that remote control boat. And I got some charging cords because, of course, I left those all at home. Because when I travel, I lose the charging cords, gone, nothing. She's shaking her head going, every time I travel with you, lose everything. And then I made my way through the store, and I'm just watching people. I'm observing them because they're the pre-doorbusters people. So the people who are in Walmart, you know what I realized they were doing? And I followed one family, they were nice people. They were scouting out which shrunk-wrapped tower they were going to hit first. So they were plotting, you know how your kids, Raymond, go to Disney World and they have the map out and they're going to go, okay, we're going to go to Space Mountain first. Yes. Then we're going to go. They know which. They were there to plot out the pallets they were going to hit first. And I'm talking towers of toys, towers shrunk wrap with a big shrink. It has signs all over, signs. Do not rip open until 6 p.m. And then, so we pay for our stuff. We go out, and indeed in the parking lot, they wouldn't let people line up on the actual sidewalk, but people had lawn chairs, and they were sitting outside of their cars in the parking lot watching football, and I don't know what they're watching on their phone, whether it's on the dossier, on Fusion GPS, the wasting of money, the shush fund in Congress, all of it. So my view is we should hold them all accountable. When I wrote Power to the People back in 2007 and Shut Up and Sing about how the elites are robbing the power from the people, Power to the People was in the second Bush term, restore power to the people, don't sap more of it. And now with Billionaire at the Barricades, that narrative, if you read those books and you're up to Billionaire at the Barricades, you are so far ahead of everybody else in the way you think about this. And by the way, a lot of people came up to me in Florida over the weekend. It was very nice, it felt good, not because I feel like I'm such a great thing, but it feels good for people to be reading. I know Raymond experiences this with his books, whether his books on Mother Angelica or his children's books. People come up to you and say, I read your book. I didn't realize that this has been going on in many ways with the collusion between the Democrats and Republicans against the people going back to the 70s. In a real way, it's been going on for a long time. It just didn't happen with Trump. But I'm so gratified for so many of you reading and understanding. You're way ahead of everybody else. And you are going to save the country. It's not these people on Capitol Hill. You're going to save the country. You started by electing Trump. He's not perfect, but he's done an enormous amount for our country in 10 months. And you're going to continue to save it by being really informed. We have a great show on tap tonight, the Ingraham Angle. You don't want to miss it. DVR us always if you're going to be out. 10 p.m. Eastern time on Fox News Channel. We're off to a great start, but we're just getting started. This is the fourth week of the show. It's hard to believe. Went by fast, but shows evolve and they change as time goes on. This show is very different from the way it was 16 years ago when I started. But this is about you. This is about your country. What kind of country do you want to live in? So I'm happy to talk about abuse of power, abuse of workplace power, abuse of political power. Which is worse, an unserious nation or a serious nation? I want a serious nation. Back to the basics. 855-40-LAURA. A lot more to get to on your healthy radio addiction. If you've listened to my show for any period of time, you know how much I love Food for the Poor. They do what they say. Their financial integrity is unequaled, and I've seen their work personally. I'm so excited to work with them again this year. In Haiti, 1 out of 14 children will never see the age of 5 without our help. Together, we're going to save the lives of 4,200 children. $50 provides food for a year and clean water for life for a suffering child. Call 844-868-4673 or go to lauraingraham.com. That's 844-868-4673 or go to lauraingraham.com. Chuck, this isn't what I was expecting from you, Chuck. That was like a hallelujah moment. 20 years late from Chuck Todd, but nevertheless, I'll take it. He actually used the word rape and Clinton in the same sentence. Maybe he did it before and I missed it. But I don't think Pelosi was ready for that. I think she thought she was going to skate in to meet the press. It was all going to work out fine for her. Let's go to the lines. Ronnie in Indiana, line 1. Ron, my question on the table is, what's the worst development for our country? The revelations about individual piggish people who do the things that frankly we know have been done in politics and the workplace before, or the widespread abuse of power, government power, to shut down the individual and small business. Ron.
It's all the above, Laura. God bless you. But I tell you right now, the way we can curb most all of this, and I get poo-pooed by like everybody I tell it to, term limits. Across the board, term limits should be no more than 2 terms, and you're gone. You don't have time to be corrupted. You don't have time to be hooked into all of that stuff down there around that
city.
Need
a constitutional amendment. You need a constitutional amendment because the court already decided the states that were acting and putting in their own term limits for federal office, but the court at the time said, look, the framers, they didn't seem to intend this in the Constitution. Otherwise, they would have made it explicit. There's no reference to term limits in the Constitution, so you all have to amend the Constitution. I mean, there have been over the years many efforts to institute term limits. I think the best test is: are you returning more power to the people or not? Are you part of what we call the swamp or not? There are some people up there who've been there. I mean, Grassley, except for that starting that shush fund, which was really stupid, he's been pretty good. He's in his 80s. Man. He's done a good. Hatch has been great on the judges, terrible on immigration, but he's been great on judges. So some of them on some issues have been great. But I think, look, and you're in your 80s. My gosh, don't people want to go on and do something else? If I am doing this job in my 80s, then James, you can just smother me with something, a pillow, chloroform, whatever. I give you permission to do that.
I'll make a note.
Yeah, make a note to file. I mean, can you imagine? Well, here at the Laura Ingraham Show, we got some stuff. Wait, I forgot where I was.
Why are you holding that pillow?
I don't know. James is coming at me. Oh, my phone number. Oh, I'll have to answer this later. Well, this is where things go. William in Florida. We have time. William, go ahead.
Ms. Ingraham, you mentioned a lot of things that America is facing right now, but everybody seems to be turning a blind eye to the issue of the stealth jihad that's taking place around us. I see cities and towns all throughout the United States that are falling under Sharia law, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. I see all these Muslim mosques that are loaded with weapons and camps all across the United States.
Really? Where are those?
What is anybody doing about that?
You've seen mosques loaded with weapons? Where is that exactly?
Well, they have. There was an FBI report out on it, but Obama stopped them from doing it. But FBI was actually getting into the mosques and finding these places and finding the training camps that they have, and they were stopped. And so now they're not doing it.
Yeah, well, I think that the way that Pat Buchanan and I talked about it last hour was when you have such a liberal immigration policy that welcomes people into the country who who come from a culture antithetical to ours, you're going to have big problems. Not many colleges can claim that they're 100% financially independent from both federal and state governments. This is amazing. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I can only think of one college that is, and that's Hillsdale College. They take not one penny from the feds, not one. And why do they do that? Because they know that with government funding comes strings attached. And they dictate how almost everything runs on campus. And they don't want that. They want to be free of those bonds of the government and the chain reins of the government and the dictates, and they just don't want any more of that. And financial freedom helps Hillsdale preserve the integrity and excellence of a Hillsdale liberal arts education. So they end up attracting the nation's brightest students in fields from everything ranging from music to biology to business. And Hillsdale teaches students to pursue truth, defend liberty, teaches character and civic pride, civic patriotism. And all you need to do to learn more about how you can help Hillsdale, this mission to reclaim American education, independent citizens is what we want. Go to lauraforhillsdale.com. To the Laura Ingraham Show, Nancy Pelosi speaking out on the icon, John Conyers. Conyers was a Korean War vet. She said, has done a lot for women. It's always easier to do a lot for a group versus how you treat the individual. I've done a lot for women. Democrats tend to see people as groups, identity politics. But when it comes to the individual business owner, small business owner, individual baby in the womb, oh no, we're for women's reproductive health. That's a group. So you treat groups well, but the individuals, what happens to them? Joining us now, I'm delighted she's with us. Cheryl Atkinson is the host of Full Measure with Cheryl Atkinson, and it's a weekly Sunday public affairs show put on by our friends at Sinclair. And she's also the author of the New York Times bestseller, The Smear, How Shady Political Operatives Fake News Control What You See, What You Think, and How You Vote. She joins us now. Cheryl, how are you? Good to talk to you.
Hey, I'm good. Thanks, Laura. How are you?
I'm great. Did you have a good Thanksgiving? Eat a lot? Cook a lot? What'd you do?
All of the above. Had a quiet Thanksgiving at home with my husband and daughter, but it was nice.
Nice. Fantastic. Let's talk about where we are in this. I made this point earlier that, in a way, these kind of tabloid stories, some of them are decades and decades old, and I'm not taking away from the seriousness of the charges, believe me, but it seems that it's easier to cover those for the media and harder to cover the other abuses, the abuse of political power, the abuse of our Constitution, what our founders envisioned for American government and governance. So it's the two abuses, the personal abuse versus the political abuse. We have a lot of people calling in and chiming in on what they believe is the more dangerous for the republic as a whole, and love your thoughts on that.
Well, I think the personal abuse is, of course, important to every person who has that happen to them. But I've thought much the same thing, that there are these professional abuses that aren't given their due coverage that affect really all of us in some way if these are public officials that are acting in a public capacity. And I think they do deserve more coverage, but it's very easy for the media to gravitate to these salacious stories, and some of them are very important regarding improper behavior and sexual abuse.
Well, on the issue of media and what media figures, from Charlie Rose to others, obviously at my own network, who are accused of things. This is it seems very prevalent. Now we have people at CBS News who are saying there are others who suggested that they have to basically have a sexual relationship with a director or producer in order to get ahead. And where does all of this end?
I think it's exceedingly common. I can only speak to my industry, but I suspect in many industries, especially if you're from my era, I'm 56 years old, the kind of stuff they're talking about, I'm not talking about rape and these very clear-cut crimes. I'm talking about improper behavior, which is also bad. But we used to call it, making a pass at somebody, and you slap them in the face if they grab you and you didn't want to be grabbed, or try to kiss you and you didn't want to be kissed. And just improper comments at work, pressure, that sort of thing, exceedingly common, I think, for women to deal with. And I think most women just sort of, as I think I did, and maybe you too, you figure out ways to get past it so it doesn't affect your job and make everybody uncomfortable. That was just kind of how I learned to deal with it as a young person when I was in my 20s, starting to handle that at work. Yeah,
like someone comes up to you, just like, are you kidding me? They do kind of know usually when you're a strong woman, and I don't think you want to go there. So then, I didn't mean anything by that. They back off pretty quick.
Well, I'm so caught by surprise when I was younger, especially, like a photographer friend of mine many years ago in local news, who I didn't even have any notion was interested in me. We were both married, and literally forced kisses on me twice, and I sat there trying to make him not feel uncomfortable at me rejecting him. How crazy is that? And as he left, when I told him he had to leave, because he had dropped off my paycheck the way our work worked back there in a bureau, I remember he turned around and looked at me and said, "Don't tell anyone about this, and if you do, I'll deny it." And I literally got chills. To this day, I think that was like the meanest, most awful thing someone said who'd done that. And that was just, one of a million little stories, I think, that I have and that a lot of women have.
I have plenty as well. But I'm not in general, I'm not a hashtag joiner for the most part. It seems to diminish to me in a way. I mean, we hashtag everything. Remember the poor Boko Haram girls that were taken? Michelle holds up her hashtag and bring our girls home.
Well, then that went away overnight. That was like,
we forgot about them.
And then they never mentioned it again.
No, we never did at all. Cheryl, on the question of some of these major figures, Glenn Thrush from the New York Times, who is a constant presence, of course, in the White House briefing room and pretty aggressively covering the president, which is fine, but he's a liberal guy, I would imagine. And it is quite something that when you look at the list, some website put this up, the list of the people accused. I think they threw in O'Reilly and Ailes, too, into that list. But they are overwhelmingly Democrat from both entertainment and politics. Everyone has problems, believe me, but they are overwhelmingly from the left. So when they go after the Roy Moore thing, in a way, Roy Moore is kind of could be saved by the enormity of the charges against so many on the left. Al Franken, says, I'm coming back. I'm sorry, but I'm coming back.
Yeah, it kind of muddles everything, doesn't it? In a way, it's difficult to draw a political line when you have so much happening, on both sides, including, as you say, on the left. And Glenn Thrush, I wrote an article about this in The Hill. How he got elevated to a position at the New York Times from Politico when, aside from the allegations about the sexual exploits, we already knew from WikiLeaks that he had communicated improperly and unethically with Clinton campaign officials, having them pre-approve or offering them up pre-published material, which is verboten ethically in our industry, at least as far as I'm concerned, letting them kind of pre-approve this material, John Podesta and Clinton officials, calling himself a hack as he did so, and yet got promoted to the New York Times from Politico. So that makes me ask, what is the New York Times looking for when they hire someone like that to supposedly fairly cover the President of the United States, writing about some of the most important topics in the world, and yet they know this about him, aside from the sexual allegations, which were apparently well circulated and widely known or believed. What is their goal then at the New York Times? What are they really looking to do if that's the kind of reporter they want doing their stories? And then I pointed out that several things he wrote about President Trump are almost exactly, this is Glenn Thrush, what women are accusing him of having done. And I put some excerpts in that article in case people are interested.
Yeah, and I think that, again, Ken Vogel, Glenn Thrush, Vogel went on to... Was he still even at Politico? He was the other one involved in the sending the content to get it approved by the Clinton campaign. It was Ken Vogel. He's still working in the media. He's blocked me on Twitter, by the way, because I called him out on this. I'm like, how can you let someone pre-approve your questions?
Well, and then how about this? Maggie Haberman was also promoted from Politico to the New York Times to cover President Trump with Glenn Thrush, and she was called by the Clinton people a friendly who teed up stories for them when they wanted her to and, quote, never disappointed them. In other words, they felt at least that they could go to her. And there's an example I've written about on my website with a lot of these reporters that have communicated like this. There's an example of them talking about, no one else will print this story we want them to print. These are the Clinton people. And that we finally think, we may be able to get Maggie Haberman to do it or the New York Times to do it. And sure enough, within 3 days, the story pops exactly as they wanted, exactly as they planned. They wanted to attack Senator Grassley about something, and it appears as though Haberman delivered. So if these are the kind of reporters that top, formerly well-respected news organizations want, that's the kind of work that they want done. You have to wonder what they really think their job is. I don't think it's reporting straight news anymore.
And so it's Ken Vogel went to the New York Times in June. Thrush went to the New York Times, and Haberman at the New York Times, like the hit squad.
Right.
It's all the news.
Well, all of whom they knew had
questions raised.
Vogel, but at least, yes, exactly, with Haberman and Thrush. They knew when they hired them what they were all about and hired them.
We're talking to Cheryl Atkinson, who's the host of a great show called Full Measure with Cheryl Atkinson on via Sinclair every Sunday. It's a terrific show. It's really in-depth on politics and the media, how the media covers politics and beyond. Cheryl, the president tweeted out over the weekend when he was down there in Mar-a-Lago about CNN International, that CNN International is fake news and it poorly represents our country. And he's clearly personally very offended when he doesn't get credit for the economy improving and so forth. What do you think of his tweeting about the media? Because that opened up the door to, of course, the media saying he's anti-First Amendment and so forth.
Well, I think, that's exactly what his supporters and followers like to see him do. He's getting different advice as to whether he should or not. If I'm Trump, I'm probably thinking the harder my opponents want me to stop, the more I probably ought to keep doing it. But, it's just a viewpoint as to whether you think he ought to do that or not. People have asked me, am I worried about the president's attack on reporters? And as someone who is currently pursuing a lawsuit against the Department of Justice for the Obama administration intrusion into my government, the government intrusion into my computers, I say, President Obama talked a good game. I was excited when he got elected in terms of him talking about the transparency and the freedom and what he was going to be able to do. And it turned out to be the opposite. So I think there are reporters who are saying they prefer someone who talks a good game, but in my view is very sneaky in what they did behind the scenes, versus Trump, who's telling you exactly like it is, and you know where you stand. I'm always the kind of reporter that prefers to hear it like it is than to be talked to, out of the side of one's mouth. So I think we know where Trump stands on the media. He says it almost every day, and I like knowing that.
Yeah, I like the transparency. You kind of just know what he thinks. And there's I don't know, it's very edifying in many ways. And sometimes it maybe goes a little overboard, but today he tweeted out, we should have a contest as to which of the networks plus CNN, I love how he says plus CNN, and not including Fox, is the most dishonest, corrupt, and or distorted in its political coverage of your favorite president. Now he's being funny. Of your favorite president, in parentheses, me. Now, see, I now find this very amusing. They are all bad. Well, winner to receive fake news trophy. This is funny. Come on, he's having fun with them now. They should laugh.
It made me think of something. This is before
it's actually really funny.
It is. Before the whole fake news discussion, I happened to be in Europe. I think I was in London for CBS when Bush was reelected, the first time, so to serve his second term. And I remember the Europeans I was around were just stunned. They said, we thought everybody in America hated Bush. They were just so stunned that he was reelected, because that's pretty much how it's portrayed overseas. When you talk about overseas coverage, it's fairly one-sided. If you start to watch, the news of America's presidents, they really like our liberal presidents. They don't much like our conservative presidents. And I remember saying to them, half the country doesn't like them, but half the country does, But yeah. You don't get that picture. It just when I saw or when I read President Trump's tweet, it kind of made me think of that.
No, I'm just screaming. The media just don't know what to do. It's like wrestling a wildcat. Like, you don't know. You think you're going to wrestle him, and everyone who's come up against it, they've all gotten all scratched up. And he's walks into the, hey, hi, everybody. Good to see you. Economy's doing well. Cheryl Atkinson, love having you on. Loved your piece. We posted it on lauraingraham.com and Facebook. On the Glenn Thrush, etc. Situation. Cheryl, if we don't talk to you, but I hope we do, have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas with you and your family, and keep up all the great work. Love your show. Love Full Measure. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
All right, we'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show, 855. We're really reaching for a pie song with that Liza Minnelli. My goodness, when did she sing that one?
Well, Piegate has apparently hit the country.
Okay.
The press secretary, White House press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, tweeted out a picture on Thursday of a chocolate pecan pie with a brief message. I don't cook much these days, but manage this chocolate pecan pie for Thanksgiving at the family farm. Well, now the media has exploded Journalists are now saying
she didn't make it. She didn't make the pie.
She
didn't build that pie.
Weaver, there's a guy named Republican strategist Sean Weaver.
Oh, he's a nightmare from McCain land.
Kasich. And he said, I found that even the low-level staffers have to lie about issues big and small.
He is a 3-time loser consultant, John Weaver. I'll have to get him on the Ingraham angle, dice and slice him up for an apple pie for Christmas.